Right.
Hello again.
Yes.
We continue our health focus this morning. According to the Cancer Association of South Africa, 1 in every 42 women will be diagnosed with cervical cancer in this country. And in most cases, cervical cancer is caused by a virus called human papillomavirus, or HPV. Our next guest, Mirinda van Zyl, survived being diagnosed at the age of 41. And I'm also joined in studio by oncologist Dr. Devan Moodley. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Moodley, we've already heard it's your birthday. Thank you so much for spending it with us. We feel special. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
I'd like us to look at the state of healthcare in terms of cancer treatment in South Africa. We recently went to Helen Joseph Hospital, and you get in there and doctors are saying that they've been pulling 24-hour shifts. The next day they're coming in to pull an 18-hour shift. That doesn't sound normal. It seems as if we're over-capacitated here, or under-capacitated.
Yeah, under. I mean, I think if you look at the amount of work that needs to be done by doctors in the public sector and the number of doctors that they're available to do it, you've got a huge disparity. And so the work needs to be done, and these young men and women pull long hours to get the work done.
Is that normal?
Fortunately, well, it shouldn't be normal, right? It shouldn't be normal. I mean, we all did it, doesn't mean it's right. I think you need more people. You need more posts, you need to train more doctors, and you need to be in a position to be able to make sure that they are fit, ready, awake, and with it to provide the service. So it's not ideal. It's far from ideal.
It's far from ideal. It's very scary, actually, because you're bound to make mistakes. No one can operate like that. We're not machines. Mirinda, let me come to you. When you went for your tests, were you worried?
I was one of those people who believed that it could never happen to me. So I genuinely wasn't worried. I expected the result to come back clean. So when the doctor said that I had cancer, it was a blow. I was not expecting it. I genuinely wasn't.
Dr. Moodley, cervical cancer is preventable, though, is it not? How?
Well, this disease, this cancer, is caused in probably up to 90% of people from a virus that they pick up when they're young. And what happens is, through the passage of time, it changes the lining of the organ, the entrance of the womb called the cervix. And through mutations or changes in that lining, it eventually becomes cancer. You can vaccinate young girls, and you can vaccinate young girls and boys because young girls have to get it from somewhere.
Right.
And if you vaccinate them, you can almost eradicate this disease. Yes, it will take a fair amount of time, but if you put in that program in place, through a period of time, we can all but eradicate this disease. So yeah, it's very preventable.
Mirinda, you talk about how you didn't think that this could happen to you. Perhaps walk us through your journey when you found out, well, this is what I have to deal with.
I was in the habit of going for a pap smear once a year. And when my gynae said he picked up abnormal cells, he told me to come back in 6 months' time. So I did that. And when I went back, he said, don't worry about it. I'm still picking up abnormal cells, but it really is nothing to worry about. So by the time I went back, a year had passed, and then I got diagnosed. And I was in such shock. Shock is it's almost as if you have no emotions. Sure. You can form no emotions, and I actually got quite worried about myself because I thought it was a little bit abnormal to feel nothing. There was just this emptiness and this heaviness. You know, it's a terrible shock. And when you start telling people that you have cancer, their reaction is it looks like they've been sort of hit, you know, in the stomach, and it's very hard to deal with people's reactions. So you're dealing with your own reaction and your own reality of being diagnosed, and then you still have to deal with other people who love you and who want the best for you, then hearing that you've got cancer. So that was really hard.
You know, it's such a tough situation and place to be in. Dr. Moodley, she mentioned something very important. Let's talk to sexually active women in terms of what steps to take to sort of prevent this or try and detect it early. This is the second most common cancer in the country. Pap smear.
Yeah. Now, there's a distinction between prevention and early detection, right? So prevention involves vaccinating all young kids, right? And arguably girls and boys, and there's a program on that 12 onwards, young girls need to be vaccinated against human papillomavirus. So that's prevention. Very good strategy. If you follow the strategy, we will, in a few years, not have this problem, certainly not to the same degree.
Okay.
So that's prevention. What pap smears do is early detection. So you're getting a scrape of the entrance of the womb, the cervix, and you're analyzing those cells to look and see, are there any cancerous cells in there? Because if they are, you want to detect this early so you can literally cut it out.
Yeah.
So those are the two parts of managing this disease.
Okay.
Because remember, the prevention will only kick the prevention will only kick in through a period of time.
Right.
There's still a whole lot of women that have been exposed to this virus that are in a developmental phase of perhaps landing up with cervical cancer.
Sure. Mirinda, the doctor touches on a very good point. What have you seen in your work and in your activism and just reaching out to people? Some of the misconceptions, rather.
So, when I speak to women about vaccinating their children, they want to protect their children, and they believe that their children will never become sexually active. Because you're a mom.
Every parent would like to think that.
You know,
of their child, of course.
and it's naive,
Yeah.
and I think it's damaging. You know, it could be harmful and detrimental to their future. So I think that that's a huge issue, is the fact that parents need to realize that both girls and boys need to be vaccinated, and that this is something that could be preventative. And they need to, unfortunately, get over the stigma of their children being sexually active, and they need to actually just take the step and get their children vaccinated. They also say that the HPV vaccination is expensive, and though it's not cheap, cancer is a very expensive disease to get. So I would say, I'm sure Doctor agrees with me, that it's better to have your children vaccinated early, you know, because cancer is an expensive disease. So those are the two big ones that I find.
Let's expand, Dr. Moodley, on her point of expenses. Lilian Dube touched on it as well in terms of spending R500,000. And there's plenty of other people also who are spending so much money on cancer treatment. Carol mentioned earlier that this is not something we found out about just last week. Why is it so expensive if it's so prevalent in our country?
Well, it's all a relative thing. Okay, so let's bottle the expenses very simply. It is much cheaper to prevent cancer than to treat cancer. But you need the will, and you need the people who are in positions to make these decisions to actually implement these programs so that we prevent this. Yeah, vaccinations cost money. And to vaccinate the entire population of young women, girls and boys particularly, will cost money.
Yeah.
But that will be far cheaper than treating all the people who develop a cervical cancer. So from that perspective, it's not that expensive, right? Number two, treatment for this disease, when you have it, involves surgery, radiation, chemotherapy. All those things have associated research and development. So all of these things are going to cost you money. So what happens is we have to decide, where do we want to spend our money, right? I think it is vital to spend your resources where it has the biggest impact. And without doubt, in this process, the biggest impact in this disease process is to make sure you don't get it.
Exactly. We'll continue this conversation after the break and chart through your process with chemo as well as radiology. Do stay with us. We continue our discussion on cervical cancer after this.